Hello everyone. Today we are going to look at Muet Extended Writing Paper 4 Task 2. First of all, you are advised to spend 50 minutes for this task. And when you are trying to answer the questions, these are the steps for you to take. First, read and understand the question carefully. The second one would be identify the types of essay and highlight the keywords while you are reading the question. Then, you are advised to brainstorm for ideas or for the points that you are going to plan to write by using mind map and WH questions. Yeah? And after that, remember the outline of your writing, which consists of introduction, body 1, 2, 3, and also conclusion. Remember, it is a must for you to practice the convention of writing for the extended writing. Then, after you have completed the plan of yours from the brainstorming of ideas, you are to start your writing within 35 to 40 minutes time. And before you submit the essay, you are also reminded to edit and proofread your essay. In order for you to identify the type of essay, you have to be able to differentiate between argumentative essay, discursive essay, and also problem solution essay. Normally, for an argumentative essay, you will see an example given on the slide. Do you agree with the statement after the statement given earlier? Or if it is a discursive essay, normally it is stated clearly for you to write an essay expressing your opinion on the statement given. And then the word discuss will come out later. This is where you need to state your opinion, whether you will support the statement given or you are against the statement given. While for problem solution essay, it is different. You do not need to write your stand or give your opinion when you are presenting your essay. The example when it comes to problem solution essay is, it will ask you to suggest ways to deal with stress, for example. Now let's move on to look at the outline of your essay. For your introduction, you are advised to start with a general statement, then narrow it down and state your stand before you write your thesis statement in the last line in the introductory paragraph. After that, you should move to body 1, body 2, and body 3. And for each of the body, you are advised to have or to start with your topic sentence, and after that you explain and elaborate using the WH question and insert example before you end it with a mini conclusion in each of the body paragraph. While in the concluding paragraph, you are advised to restate your stand or opinion and also summarize your thesis statement. If possible, paraphrase the thesis statement that you have given earlier. And you can also end it in the last line of the concluding paragraph by writing a rhetorical question. So now let's move on to look and focus on the introduction. When you're writing your introduction, there are 3 functions of which when you introduce your topic, you need to grab the reader's attention by using one of the following techniques. Why is this? Actually, when you have a good introduction, it can attract and arouse the interest of the reader to continue in reading the idea that you are going to present in your essay. So the techniques that you can use are short dialogue, anecdote, or so-called narrating a brief story. You can also start with a quotation or startling information or summary of information, or probably you can use a common misconception based on the topic given. You can also start by using a question and also a bold assertion. We will look at few samples for the introduction later. After that, you need to describe about the topic in one sentence and explain further, of which you narrow down and link to the topic given or statement given in the question. Then you will go to state your stand or opinion before you end the particular introductory paragraph by presenting your thesis statement that you have collected or brainstormed from the mind mapping during your preparation earlier. Remember, thesis statement should be in the last line of your introductory paragraph. For your information, or probably you have been told on the types of thesis statement, there are two types of thesis statement. The first one will be a general thesis statement, of which, as you can see the example, there are many ways to curb vandalism in Malaysia, or probably there are many reasons to overcome vandalism in Malaysia, or again it depends, and it is normally written in a general statement. However, it is different for a specific thesis statement, of which you must use the points that you have prepared earlier from your brainstorming session and state your stand. For example, in my opinion, I agree with the statement because of hiring more security guards, installing CCTV, and imposing heavier penalty on the vandals are effective ways to curb vandalism in Malaysia. Bear in mind, you are showing to the reader of your essay that these will be your points, and remember to keep on to your promise to maintain what you have written here and follow the sequence or the order that you have stated in this particular sentence. And also it should be written in one single sentence. Right, let's look at the one of the example for your introduction. Imagine that the question is, prevention of becoming snatch theft victims depends on ourselves. Discuss. So the first technique is on short dialogue. Okay, while you're using a short dialogue, you must try to convey a clear statement in this particular dialogue that you are going to use. And remember, it must not be long, and make sure that you make it concise and focused, as this is only an introduction to the topic. Do not waste your time to write a long introduction, of which in the end we will not be able to complete the 5 paragraph of essay. Alright, after you have done with the brainstorming, please ensure that you remember to state your stand before you start writing your thesis statement in the last line of the introductory paragraph. So now let us look at a sample of introduction when you want to use a short dialogue. Okay, as you can see from the slides, you can start with a short dialogue between a conversation between Aisha and also Intan. And after that, you need to comment based on the conversation that you have given at the beginning of your essay. Then you narrow it down and touch on the stand that you have agreed upon. For example, you agree and you state your thesis statement before you end the introductory paragraph. The second technique they can use is narrate a brief story or anecdote. Remember, you need to be focused and make sure that your brief story is clearly related to the topic given in the question. For example, Amy was walking on cloud 9. Her long-time boyfriend has just proposed to her last night and she can't stop smiling. She was lost in thoughts, remembering the memorable events, that she did not notice two men on the motorcycle slowly approaching her. Suddenly, they zoomed past her while the pillion rider quickly pushed her down and snatched her handbag. It happened in a blink of an eye. Amy fell down, hitting her head hard on the road divider. She never regained consciousness. We seem to be reading such stories in the newspapers almost every day. If you notice, the particular writer narrowed it down before focusing in giving the stand, which is to agree on this particular topic given in preventing the snatch theft, and ending the particular introductory paragraph by writing the thesis statement. Okay. The next technique you can use is, if you're familiar with any quotation that is relevant and appropriate to the question given or to the topic given in the question, you can use it as well. While the fourth technique will be using facts or figures. Remember, when you are using facts or figures, you have to ensure that you state the information from reliable sources, for example, such as newspapers online, or probably from a statistic that you have read or come across online, and for you to be able to cite a quote where it is from actually. So let's look at the technique 3, begin with a quotation. Okay, you can start by having the quotation at the beginning of the sentence by saying, "It is better to be safe than sorry." Then you continue to explain on this particular quotation made. Okay, though this may sound like a cliche to some, there is much wisdom in these simple words of advice. The number of snatch thefts in the country is increasing, and many innocent people have lost cash, valuables, and some even their life. If you notice, the writer start to narrow down and focus on the topic given, which is from becoming a snatch thief victim. And after that, the writer wrote or state his stand, and followed by the thesis statement. You can do it as well. Alright, so let's look at example 4, which is using facts or figures. This particular writer was able to come out with accurate figures or facts based on the Star newspapers online in March 21st, 2019, of which it mentioned on the snatch theft victims were women. And it had also been revealed that most of the victims were seriously injured in these accidents. The number of snatch theft in the country is increasing alarmingly, and many innocent people have lost cash, valuables, and some even their lives. If you notice, most of the candidates who wrote this particular introduction, they narrow it down before they focus on the stand that they have decided earlier and state their thesis statement in the last line of the introductory paragraph. Alright, so I hope that you are clear on the introductory paragraph to make it interesting, to arouse the interest of the reader. So let's move on to the next one, which is the body paragraph. Remember, it depends on your stand, and you must have at least 3 body paragraphs if you agree or disagree, or probably if you are being partially agree or disagree. Remember, when you start your body paragraph, you must have a topic sentence, and then you explain and elaborate before you state your examples or insert your examples by using specific facts. And in order for you to answer all the possible questions, or to expand or to develop the points that you have written earlier, you can use the WH question. This is the time for you to practice in using the WH question, the why, the how, in what way that particular topic is being discussed, and how you are going to explain that particular topic, and why it is the reason that you have mentioned or you have stated it earlier. And you can end it by having your mini conclusion at the end of the last line of that particular body paragraph. When it comes to the topic sentence, you need to turn your thesis statement that you have stated earlier in the introductory paragraph into a question by using the WH questions. And you must remember what your topic is about and what are the central ideas that you are discussing. And hopefully the answers might help you to come up with possible topics or how you want to develop the paragraph by explaining, elaborating, and also insert your examples. Let's look at the sample of body paragraph, of which this particular questions is referring to how men and women speech differs. So this particular candidate wrote that one way in which men's and women's speech differs is in the practice of interrupting. So if you want to, when you want to expand what do you mean by practice of interrupting, you have to use in what way the practice of interrupting is different between men and women. So what you can do is you can use facts, or you can further explain what do you mean by practice of interrupting. In this case, the candidates used based on facts of a study that which have shown that men interrupt women much more often than they do other men, while women are less likely to interrupt either men or women. And you need to prove when you state something in the particular explanation. Prove it. So in other words, give example. At business meetings, for example, men typically engage in competitive turn-taking or grabbing the floor by interrupting another speaker. That's not enough. You have to continue in supporting what you mean by men typically engage in competitive turn-taking and why women are different. So you have to state, or you have to make a comparison and giving your justification on how women are different. Okay, so in this paragraph, the candidate wrote, women, however, have been conditioned from childhood to believe that interrupting is impolite. Explain further based on what you mean here. So this particular candidate wrote again, instead, they here is referring to the woman, sit for hours waiting for a turn to speak, while their male colleagues wonder if they will ever have anything to say. So what do you mean by this? So you need to further explain on the explanation, and don't simply feel satisfied on or when you have mentioned a sentence. You must remember that the reader will have questions on whether they are happy with what they are reading. So continue in your supporting details by stating that this not only demonstrates a gender difference in speaking to differentiate between men and women, as it illustrates that men and women have different ways of interrupting. each other. So in other words, you wrap up this particular paragraph as what you have mentioned earlier. Okay? Same goes to the next sample, which is on man's careless attitude is the major factor for the destruction of the environment is because men are selfish. The colored one is actually the topic. So in what way men are selfish? So these candidates wrote that people in general want things their own way without even thinking of the consequences of their actions. And you need to give example to further explain on what you mean by the sentence that you have given earlier. So if you notice, the candidates wrote deforestation occurs because people can no longer find land to build huge high-rise buildings, and people aren't open-minded for other alternatives. They go for the option that is cheaper, easier, and the one that would favor them. How is this? So you need to further explain on the point that you have mentioned earlier. Okay? So if people would stop and think, they could find another way to build more buildings. Why? Prove it. For example, deserts aren't even fully used. It's hard to build home near the deserts. Spelling error there. But the Arabian did it. So can the rest of the human population. So what humans know or don't know about deforestation is that not only the oxygen content is lowered, the forest is also home to the wildlife, animals. Are you happy with it? If not, continue in explaining further. So, here the candidates wrote that when people take away their homes, the animals or the wildlife home, they would have to go find new ones. So that means, in other words, the animal will have to find the new ones, and that is the reason why news of animals being spotted in cities are increasing. And why this is so unfair to the animals is that we are the cause of it, and they don't deserve to be shut down because of our inconsiderate actions. If you notice, the candidate wrote further in explaining why animals are not staying in the jungle or their place that they used to be, such as the forest, just because of human practice the deforestation. And let's look at another sample of which this particular candidate start with. To begin with, our family has a great impact in shaping and influencing our lives, as they are our first and sometimes our best teachers. In what way you are saying that your family has a great impact in shaping and influencing our lives? So these candidates explain further by using, as the saying goes, as the twig is bent, so shall the tree grow, which gives us the idea that parents are the ones assigned primary responsibility for bending the children in desirable directions by supervising, teaching, and disciplining them as they grow up. So you need to prove it by giving example and then further explain on what or how you explain that particular point. Okay? Alright? And also, if you think that you're not happy with your explanation, continue in explaining or further explain on what you meant by that particular discussion of yours. Remember, don't simply feel satisfied with only a one line of explanation. You have to at least give two supporting details in explaining, and if possible, a clear examples should be supporting your explanation and elaboration. And do not forget to end your body paragraph by having a mini conclusion. If you look at this sample, the candidates wrote, therefore, it is without any doubt parents are the biggest influence on one's character, as they are the very first people who are responsible to imbibe their children with values. Okay? So, let's do some practice. The clues given here in the paragraph: the government should start giving recognition to sportsperson and pay them their due tribute, hence boosting their moral and spirit. How is that? In what way it can help to boost their moral and spirit? You have to further explain, because when the reader of your essay have further questions, you need to explain further. You do not simply assume that the reader of your essay will feel satisfied or understand what you are trying to say. So in other words, you have to put yourself in the situation and read back your essay to make sure that you understand what you are explaining. So if possible, try to explain on these particular points by using the WH question, and after that, in what way you meant on the tribute, hence boosting the moral and spirit of the athletes, and last but not least, how the by giving the fame and recognition will serve as an effective reward and motivate the sports person. Give it a try, okay? And probably you can submit to your lecturer to see whether you are able to explain and satisfy the reader of your essay. Alright, can you do it? So now, you can refer to this answer if you have done it. If not, this is just a sample. It is up to you on how you want to explain further on that particular topic that has been given earlier. Alright, remember, whatever that you do at the end of each body paragraph, you must conclude by writing your mini conclusion. So let's move on to the concluding paragraph. In your conclusion, you should write or sum up the points that you have mentioned earlier by using slightly different words, or probably paraphrase your thesis statement that you have given earlier. Remember, you need to remind the readers of the important ideas that you have mentioned. So in other words, you are advised to restate back your thesis statement or paraphrase your thesis statement that had been given earlier. Besides, you need to convincingly restate your stand or opinion or your point of view, and make sure that you are consistent with what you have stated earlier. If let's say you have agreed in the introductory paragraph, please ensure that you end it by restating that you strongly agree as well. Do not change your stand at the end of the concluding paragraph. And you can leave a lasting impression by using one of the following strategies as well. You can write a recommendation. You can also write an implication based on the topic given, or you can also write a rhetorical question, of which when you write a rhetorical questions, you do not need to answer the question that you have mentioned. Okay? Or you can also give summary or write a summary based on what you have discussed earlier. Or if let's say you have started the essay just now by having a brief story or so-called anecdote, make sure that you can also end it by having an anecdote as well. Or if you have mentioned, or if you have started your introduction by having a quotation, and if possible, if it is relevant, or if you are able to come up with another quotation that is relevant for you to end the paragraph, it is also advisable to do that. Okay? Alright, so let's take a look at a sample of concluding paragraph. Remember, when you write, you have to make sure that you restate your stand using your own words. For example, in conclusion, I really do believe that by changing our ways of thinking and living, that we might still have a chance to save our Mother Earth. and then restate back. This is because if we are not the ones to make the first move, who would? This is a question. Remember, rhetorical questions? There are many ways that people can think of to develop their countries or themselves without having to drag the environment along. We are born with the gift to think. Our brains can do wonders if we stop and let the thoughts flow. On that note, I leave it to the people to decide on what to do next. This is where you are giving an implication for the people to decide on what they are supposed to do next to help to look after the environment and not to destroy the environment. Okay, let's take a look at another example of a conclusion, okay, of which this is on the family matters. The candidates wrote, in conclusion, we can draw a safe conclusion that the influence of a family on their child's character, the way one thinks and acts, is shaped by the way he or she has been raised, which is why parents have a very important role to play in a child's development. So this is where a wrap-up or summarize of the thesis statement as mentioned earlier. And the writer also wrote, children spend more time during their formative years with their family at home and outdoors, and their parents are the first teachers for them in their social and personal lives. So other external influences like friends are merely superficial and momentary in nature. Most of one's character is acquired during childhood, where family teach their children to differentiate between the right and the wrong, making them capable and supporting their emotional, social, and intellectual development. Hence, family is indeed the biggest influence on one's character. This is also another style for you to end your discussion by restating the stand, but you don't have to use the word agree or disagree. But in this matter, the candidate is actually agreeing on the topic given, of which he put it in his own way by writing, family is the one or the biggest influence on one's character, to show that he actually agreed with the topic given. Okay, so now let us look at the assessment for your writing, of which the marks allocated for your writing of task 2 will be 120%. In terms of content, it is 60%, of which you have, or you should be able to make sure that the topic can be understood by the reader of your essay, and whether you have addressed all the parts of the task given through the points that you have mentioned, whether you have justified, whether you have argued, or whether you have disagreed, or whether the example given is relevant. It depends on how you use it in your content, and how you generate and develop your ideas with relevant and accurate content by using appropriate register. The proper linkers that should be used is also countable when it comes to the content that you develop in your essay or in the topic given. Besides, language is also 60%, of which the reader will be looking at how you control your simple and complex structures, or probably the compound structures of your sentence, whether you are only focused on writing a simple structures of your essay in the throughout the essay, or probably you are able to come up with complex structures throughout the essay, and whether you are able to use appropriate and varied vocabulary, and the cohesion, coherence, and the way that you link the ideas presented in the content, and whether you show that you have a clear planning and effective organization of ideas. The one that you think is the best should come first, and then make sure that it can be linked with one another, and the skillful paraphrasing that you are able to come up with when it comes to your writing of the structure of your sentence. Okay, remember the types of questions that is asked is either argumentative essay or discursive essay, and both types of essay you have to state your stand or opinion. However, for a problem solution essay, you do not need to write your stand or you do not need to write your opinion. Okay, so a final reminder on task 2. Remember, when you are reading the questions, highlight it and find the keywords that you are supposed to focus on. Number 2 is remember the organization or convention of writing or the format of your essay, of which you need to present a 5-paragraph of essay. The third one will be register or use a proper vocabulary and relevant vocabulary and appropriate vocabulary as well. And the last one will be check your grammar. Alright, so if you think that you can follow the writing style given in this sample, you will definitely move up in your current band. Okay guys, thank you for listening and thank you for your patience, and all the best for your Muet exam and also for your future writing in your study. Thank you and take care. Bye.